60s. I was just saying we only had one on event right now, so that's good. Sweet. The lowest we've been for since July.
It's 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First item will be roll call.
Sam,
Here.
Pat, Chris,
Present.
Turkey,
Here.
David,
Here.
Here. Second item will be a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
on the previous minutes, it said we were going to table for the next meeting, the EMT and paramedic program.
There's no information on that yet.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe. And I would approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
Chairman.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Has everyone had a chance to look over those previous minutes?
There's an awful lot of them. At 9 minutes.
There are no additions or corrections. They'll stand approved as presented. Announce visitors. Faith Demas, Steve Galloway, and David Neal.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Was there any public comments in it? Seeing there was none, we'll move on to the officer's report, the chief's report.
The call volume did not get attached. So it's attached, but it's not on there. So I can just bring up my next report forward. If that's suitable, otherwise I can bring it up on the screen if anybody really wants to know the numbers right now. I did put a couple of interesting little facts in there. August 2021 was our busiest month ever. Out of those, it had 712 total calls, 503 transports, and we did see 64 patients with COVID or suspected COVID. About half of those were transports, about half of them were not. So the ones that were not would be lift assists and basically coming out of the hospital and still need a little bit of help, but that's how many COVID patients we had, which is up from the previous month. I believe we had 55 in July. So like I said, I don't know if we can bring it up on the board or not, or if the board so wishes, we'll just bring it. I'll just include it in my next report. Okay, thank you. My apologies for that. Operational changes or issues, we have, this could probably just be a permanent placeholder from March of 2020, but the exposure control plan is updated. We have to do that on a pretty regular basis. Again, it was updated because of the uptick in the Delta variant, which is now present in all sewer shed tests in Sedalia. So it's kind of everywhere right now. Our current requirements, and this is somewhat arbitrary, but we had to put a number on it. Basically, we had everybody masked up again. We limit the traffic between the stations. Social distancing, of course, absolutely whenever possible. We're still, as you can see, wearing masks when we get in the little crowded spaces. Pretty much wear them all the time in the offices, and the crews do a good job of keeping themselves separate. We can probably relax some of those requirements, but the number I put on it for this point in time, CDC recommended between 5 and 8, so I split the difference and called it 7%, and that's our positivity rate for the county. Monday at the COVID task force meeting, it was around 13%. It's been hovering right around there. It's actually gone down a little bit in the last week, so we're still about twice where we need to be to kind of relax some of these requirements again. But I don't see that happening very soon. So we'll keep on this as we are, and it will continue until we get some better news. So number 3, major equipment. That's an agenda item, so we can come back to that one. And there is, I will go ahead and point out when we do get to that, there's a page on everybody's desk, the board of directors desk in front of them. It's just this little small condensed chart because it's a lot easier to read. Get you past all that striker stuff in the back where the quote is attached back there with James. Better, simpler sense out of it. So moving past that, the let's see, No major minor projects or repairs are pending. Our unit mileage, the other piece of paper in front of you, one of the other, is someone had asked me, I'm sure I didn't imagine it, but somebody had asked me to go ahead and put the year and the types next to those unit numbers where I normally list the mileage on there. That will be in the report as it is on this page. It's not in this report like that. So went ahead and threw them down that extra page. You can see we've got a lot more units in the green and only one left in the red, which is unit 1. And that is the 2013 Osage unit with 215,000 miles on it. So we elected to keep it, as you may recall, instead of selling it because of the motor problem on unit 6. So we're not keeping it around because it is a functioning unit if we need it. It's our 12th backup unit. So our 12th unit as a backup, I should say. We don't have 12 backup units. Let's see. We do have one EMT. He's post-operative and he's doing some physical therapy. He's not actually even on light duty. He hopefully should be next week back onto light duty after his surgery. So that's kind of where we're at with that. And that was an orthopedic injury. We do have one paramedic out on COVID that is a work comp claim due to an extended absence there. He's been out for quite a while. Not hospitalized to my knowledge at this time. Hopefully they're doing well and getting better, but slow going nonetheless. Building and grounds, just doing routine checks, nothing out of the ordinary there. I did want to mention we replaced the hot water heater at HQ. The warranty actually covered the unit, so we were able to do all the work and just throw it in ourselves and cost us any extra money there. So that we've got the hot water heater at HQ. The city did come by and put some parts and rerouted the water to where it is coming off an acceptable part of that standpipe now. So it's not in the sprinkler system. It's not, we're not drinking water that's been sitting up there stagnant or anything. The potable water is coming off where it needs to come off right now. So that should get us through inspections and so forth. So that's good news. The visitor restrictions, I've been posting these on the task force updates, but they're very long and you get to the very bottom and ours are down there. Essentially what it says, if you're a visitor or a building, you need to be conducting official business. You can come in and pay bills. Any of the public entrances have masks available at them. So we expect anybody that's coming in to mask up. We haven't had any computer or telephone systems issues. The software and virus protection is working well. I can report. Community public relations. I'm gonna throw this. I don't see anybody up on the screen, but I think Roy is tuned in. Roy's here. Is audio okay, or do we need? He just pretty face it on us. What's that? He's just in mute. There you go. Okay.
I'm here.
Hand it over to you to kind of fill the board in on just a summary of how things went out. If you don't mind. You can go ahead with that whenever.
Yep, State Fair fire went great. Had the storm that blew in on the first day kind of gave us cooler weather than expected. So our call volume was down by a little bit. Overall, the entire organization ran 212 calls. 117 of those were medicals. And then I'll break those down for you. 60 of those 117 were transports to either the field hospital on the fairgrounds or to Bothwell. 27 refusal cares, and then 30 were either canceled or were first aid refusals. And a first aid refusal is a patient that came into first aid but wasn't really dealt with by an ambulance crew necessarily. So that gives you your 117. Other than that, we had full staff out there this year, and everybody did a great job, and I'm super happy with everybody that came out there and volunteered their time.
Right. Well, once again, I appreciate your work out there, Roy. I know Roy pretty much lived out there for the duration of there and took their business, so thank you for that. Unless the board has any other questions for him on the wall. Okay. Don't have any media relations, media stories, nothing pending at this time. Intergovernmental, Pettis County Joint Communications. We do actually have a board meeting tomorrow. However, we'll tell you they are answering all the calls. We're getting fairly regular updates on the CAD, which is the software that shows us everything on our computers the mobile units and the trucks. We're getting regular updates on that. Everything seems to be working good. There's always little bugs that need to be fixed, but that's why we have meetings and talk about it all the time. So everything going as expected there. Our Pettis County COVID Task Force, there is a link. If you bring up this file online, that link is live. It'll take you to the next little thing, get that information there. You can also sign up for it on that same link. I'll probably just leave that in my reports and in the public packet, just so it's there. So if somebody wants it, it's real simple to sign up. And you really don't get your phone blown up by them. I only get probably 2 to 3 mixels a week. And generally they're avoid the area of X, Y, and Z roads because of construction or accident on the highway. So it's a handy little thing if you live in Pettis County to keep you tuned in to what's going on. We had something on that home invasion on there this week. So it's a nice little alerting system. It's not overused. Training this month, we're pretty much doing just continued AED and CPR training for the Pettis County Joint Communications Center. The other thing I have for consideration of the board is also an agenda item. So I already spoke to that. That's one of the little supplemental sheets for page 52 of the board packet. Excuse me. Yeah, so I'll save that for the agenda item. Personnel, COVID staff health update. We have matched our 2020 numbers in the last 2 months of people out with COVID. In the last 2 months have been the same number of people that were out with COVID all of last year. So it has affected our staff in a much greater, quicker way. Some of them been a little sicker this time too. But no new infections as of this week, other than one I spoke of that's out on leave for a while. No FMLA information to report, nothing from the local 5229. No status changes or demotions or promotions, and no report as far as resignations, terminations, or other changes in employment status. And like I said, I will put the actual phone numbers in my next report. Again, I apologize, so it's not really in. But that was all I have.
Does anyone have any questions, Barry?
Yeah, I just have a couple. So on your employees that are vaccinated, I mean, you know what percentage you're
And we're around 30%.
at, right? Still around 30. Yeah. Well, are you going to require those that are not vaccinated to test weekly?
That information just came out, as you know, Biden, CDC, everybody released all of that. We have to work through some logistics before I'm prepared to announce anything about that, just for obvious reasons.
Because we do receive Medicare and Medicaid funds.
Exactly. Yes, we do fall under the facilities definition and that requirement. So it will affect us. However, there's some panels that are supposed to meet in October, I believe, to give us some more information. And until I get some reliable, solid information from our lawyers and talk to the union about it and see how we can get this done. I think probably the logistics of it are going to be a little complicated, especially when it comes to testing. However, we do have a lot of, as you know, a lot of facilities in Sedalia that are doing testing, so I don't think it'll be impossible. It's just something to deal with, but hopefully it gets more worked out on the worst staff action. So we'll see how that goes, and I will keep the board updated as I gather information on that. But yes, you are correct. That the requirement does affect EMS throughout the state of Missouri.
I have a question on that workers' comp. When you have a paramedic workers' comp, did he catch that here?
That is the assumption with COVID. If you work in healthcare and you can track COVID, unless you can definitively, if you've been off work for a month and you track it, you can track it. We can safely say you didn't get it to work. But if you are a full-time employee working in healthcare from the beginning of the pandemic, that was just made the
So
assumption.
that makes it workers' comp.
Yes, sir. Yep. Firefighters have something similar in place. If they develop certain respiratory illnesses, it is assumed to be a byproduct of their job. So that's the way they treat it.
Yeah, I'm still learning. 503 transports and 712 total calls. So the 209 that weren't transports, those were emergency type things, were the sirens?
No, were those, many of them, yes. In fact, a lot of those end up being response lights and sirens because of for car wrecks, and generally we respond to emergency car wrecks. Once we get on scene, it's either no care needed, which a lot of times it is, so we'll just get called so we can be en route and get there quickly should we be needed. A certain amount of those we get canceled before we ever get on scene. And about the remaining ones are either invalid call numbers, which are inadvertently dispatched to us from our emergency service dispatches. And there's not too many of them. We're talking, 10 or 15 a month. Generally, about a third of our calls, if just a rule of thumb, is out of our total call volume, about a third of them are non-transports. That's public assist, that's going out and helping somebody who calls an ambulance because they've fallen and can't get up and they're not injured. They don't want to go to the hospital. But again, many of them are just canceled because of car wrecks and things like that we're dispatched on, we're not needed. Fire standbys is another example of a non-transporting call. So a pretty big chunk of our service involves non-transported patients.
And when we talked about the strategic plan and showing the map and where we were going, I'm assuming that we need to, our goal is to get to places where there are emergency situation,
Yes.
where their life is in danger, heart attacks, those type of things. Is there a record of how many of those type of calls that we make? I mean, is that
To
that's
break
just
them down
considered,
into,
that's considered a transport, right? I mean, that's just part of the 712 total calls.
yes. Those are all on the maps that you were given. That is encompassing, that encompasses all calls. I didn't leave out non-transported
Okay.
calls off of that.
So, so what I'm thinking is, do we need to, I forgot how many minutes you said our goal was.
Generally under 10 minutes is where you want to be.
And would that also include those that just want to get a transport from here down to, or up to, over to Columbia?
No, that's a great question, actually. Currently, we're going to a priority system that I'll just explain. Currently, we have what's called prioritized response. And essentially, when we are called out, we're assigned a number designator. Response determinant is the actual term for it. And that's Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo. The higher up that list you are, the more serious the calls. We only respond to emergencies to Charlie's, Deltas, and Echoes. Those are the worst type of calls that you're talking about. What threat to life are them? Alphas would be the ones you're talking about. Now, alphas might encompass somebody who's already been stabilized, say over a Bothwell. It might include somebody who, again, reports no injuries, just needs help, and just needs some sort of public service to assist. And we do not respond lots of sirens to those. So we really try and limit the amount of times we're going down the highway with any sort of dangerous light and siren stuff on our apparatus. Hopefully I answered that question. But like I said, overall, the general rule of thumb is about a third of our calls are non-transports. The remaining bulk of the transport calls, you can also take a third of them, and those are our transfers. So it's the rule of thirds, I guess, if you will, for EMS. It almost works out perfectly every month. That's how the numbers work. But hopefully I addressed it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Are there any other questions? If not, we'll move on to the CFO report.
I spoke to the auditor last week and she promised that we'll have it by 9:30. But I can't promise it'll be by the second meeting in September, but it'll be done by the end of the month. So not next meeting, then the first meeting in October, we should have. We are required to report on the provider relief funds we received by the end of this month. Actually, today they just came out with a 60-day grace period, but I have those reports done. I'm just kind of waiting because they also announced the availability of more COVID-19 provider relief funding. So I'm kind of waiting to see what the reporting is going to be on that and the application process and how that looks before I go ahead and hit submit, basically. So I also
That's
sent-
available. We have to apply for that, right? And
yeah, it's not
available.
going to be out till the 29th
29th.
though. So I'm kind of waiting to see if we get some more information maybe prior to that. With that, I mean, they've kind of said rural providers are gonna get a higher portion of that. And it's gonna be based on your Medicare and your CHIP and your Medicaid. And if you have a higher percentage of those, you'll get a higher percentage as well, but it's also gonna be based on expenses and loss of revenue. So I'm just kind of waiting to see if they're gonna treat that like they've treated all these other rounds, or if they're gonna change the rules again. So I'm just kind of waiting, because you have to report everything for all periods, even the ones that they're gonna request on this new funding. So I just kind of want to know the rules before I put it in. What else did I have on here? I had sent out some training for the board members that haven't had it. There's one in Ava, and there's also a virtual one. Steve went ahead and asked me to register for him, so if there's anybody else that needs to register it, let me know. We'll get them registered for those. That was all my updates. Okay, my report starts on page 6. This is our budget performance through the end of July. And again, I put the year-to-date budget numbers. So you can see that we're over budget on revenue at year-to-date numbers at 111%, at about 490,000. And then on expenses, we're under budget about 58,000, actually 59,000. So we're looking good overall. Any questions on any of that?
On the yellow one, the employee, the reason that we're spending more on that is because of the raise that we negotiated,
There's,
and it wasn't in the budget. Is that, no?
no, we've adjusted the budget for that, but
Okay,
there is, a lot of that is gonna be vacations and sick time, that we've had to pay people overtime to take shifts. So, and then we've also got more paramedics than we did last year, so it's a combination of a lot of little pieces that make that amount there. Yeah. So pages 7 through 10 are the details of that budget performance, and here I have the annual budget and the percentage we are of the annual budget. So this is 7 months, so we should be about 58%. And you can see there our revenue is still over budget, about 10%. So that's good. Ambulance and vehicle fuel, that's slightly over budget, and that's just due to the increased prices that we've had. And we also have had more transfers than we did last year, just due to COVID. But overall, total ambulance operations is under budget. So that still looks good. Building maintenance. So our main building, we've done a lot of things this year that we didn't really foresee when we budgeted. So that is over budget there. And then we've had a lot of things just break this year. So, so that is over budget. But overall, building maintenance, it's still over budget, but I think it's going to come out okay in the end. Communications, again, just slightly over budget. And that's due to those dispatch software that we had to pay 2 years of this year. Insurance looks good, employee benefits looks good, and then, of course, the payroll, total employee expenses is the same, slightly over budget there, about 2% over budget so far. And then on page 10, training, the training materials over budget, but overall our training is under budget, so. Overall, we are looking pretty good here on that. Anybody have any questions on any of that?
Yeah, I just have a question. Do we have cyber insurance?
We do.
And is that an annual renewal?
Yeah.
Are they requiring you to have multi-factor authentication?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's,
They're not requiring anymore.
they're not requiring it.
Insurance companies not.
Okay, yours is not, okay.
Yeah, we actually have, we have coverage under our general policy, and then we also have separate coverage as well.
So what we're hearing out there that might be coming is down the pipe, you're gonna need to have that multi-factor authentication in order to get coverage. So,
Everything's along with that. You can't log into anything like that anymore without having some sort of generator or getting a text with a code, so. Any other questions on the budget report? Page 11 and 12 is the balance sheet. Previous year comparison. Anybody have any questions on that? You can see that on page 12, there are changing fund balance so far this year to about 516,000. Page 13 is the profit and loss previous year comparison. And again, these are basically the same numbers as in the budget. Just kind of a year-on-year comparison, where you can see the operating revenue up quite a bit, even with the stimulus funds we received last year. Sales tax revenues are up, our service fees are up. And then also our Windsor payment is up. As well as the GDP. As far as business, they're up too, and that's mostly the payroll. And then our capital purchases, make up that increase. Any questions on that? Page 14, I just kind of gave you an update on where we are as far as our capital expenses, what we budgeted for, what we spent. So pretty much we've done everything except for just a couple of things. The window replacement, we're just waiting on that. And then a DVR upgrade, pretty much everything else has been taken care of. Any questions on any of that?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just want to say that I'm very proud of what the board did with these capital expenses this year and how we were able to address some serious purchases, some of them in advance of their time, but it was a good move. So.
Page 15 is sales tax receipts. So for this month, this is $395,175.99. It's about a 3% increase over the same month last year. Overall, for the year, we're up about 13% on sales tax revenues. And remember, we're a couple months behind. So these are July sales. They report to the state in August, we get them in September. So take your time. Any questions on that? Page 16 is our bank balances as of last Thursday versus the meeting before. You see the increase there. It's our standard ebb and flow we have every month. And then year over year, it's up about 1.7. Page 17 is the cash reserve analysis. Less than a 3-day change there in the cash reserves. Any questions on any of those? The check register is pages 18 to 20. I did point out there on page 20 in the purple, the dovetails, that was the sale of unit 2. We netted $15,200 on the sale of that unit, and unit 6 is also gone. It was picked up today, so we'll get that probably next Friday. Is that right? And it was 75, 7600, 78.
Both good sales.
The next, I don't know, 10, 20 pages here are just the billing reports from EMS. The first one is PCAD as a whole. And then page 28 is Pettis County by itself. And page 36 then is Windsor by itself. You can see there on page 22 that our cash per trip has been going up a little bit, so that's good. You have any questions on? There's a lot of information there, but it's all pretty general. But yeah.
This is our first 12-month glimpse.
Well, this is probably the second.
Okay.
They started billing in July 2020. So this report will show a rolling 12 months.
Yeah.
That's all that. Pages 42 through 44 is the credit card statement. Do you have any questions about those charges? So Page 45 has the accounts payable aging summary, and then the details are on pages 46 through 49. Anyone have any questions on any of those bills?
Might keep insurance, what is?
So we added 2 ambulances. That's the coverage for those 2. The difference, I guess, between the 2 that was sold. No, that's it in my report. I did go ahead and put that training in here. I was having trouble when I sent the email, just pulling it all out. It was just a one. That was in my report.
Thank you, Jamie.
Any questions for Jamie? If not, I'll take a motion to approve payment of outstanding bills.
So moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Dr. Gus is not available this evening, so we'll move on to the committee reports, strategic planning committee.
I'm sorry.
You got a date set?
Yeah, we did set a date for us to all get together and discuss some stuff. That's gonna be a week from Friday at 1 p.m. And all the attendees have been notified, so I look forward to working through some details there. I kind of, if now is an appropriate time to ask about the direction of the strategic planning, so we can kind of get a little guidance from the board. It's my advice, I would say officially to the board, that we look into the purchase of a regular commercial house, residential house, and construct a bay near that house. This is similar to what has been done at many annual services throughout the state. In fact, we have a model of our own in Windsor, Missouri, where there's a house, and garage right next to it. The garage save a lot of money, construction doing it that way. Make a nice facility. A lot of the bay down there, I want to say, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I want to say it was less than 160,000. It's ample room for 2 bays. There's a decontamination / restroom, shower, and a small service room. Pretty much everything you need. Our supplies go in there. It's a nice way to save some money. The house gets us in, gets us out of here quicker, saves us money overall. And I would like, with the board's permission, of course, to pursue kind of that line of thinking as we look for properties to extend our services out to the west. Obviously, that's something we're going to discuss in the strategic planning meeting, but if it's appropriate at this time, I'd like to know how the board feels about that. Obviously, the implication here is not doing a greenfield build project and just buying something that exists. I will leave that to the board to discuss, but until then, that's all I have is accept the meeting next Friday. No real news, just a question.
So are there any thoughts or questions? I know we have to be the kind of right place, but
If somebody were to just gift you Greenfield,
Oh, Greenfield? I don't know. Construction part is the hardest thing, obviously. It's where a lot of the money gets spent. I was able to find anywhere from $70,000 all the way up to $250,000 for the kind of the size lot that I was trying to secure, not secure, but find, which would be anywhere from an acre to 2 acres, ideally about an acre and a half. So a pretty broad range of costs just for the land. And then putting the building costs on top of that, one of the reasons I'm kind of suggesting to the board, one of the reasons I am suggesting to the board is just the cost of construction, all the labor that goes into it, and the time. The time is a big deal. We've got people across the street that are still kind of stacked on each other, and that's not getting any better. You know, our call numbers are filling up, they're not gonna come down, they'll continue to increase. And eventually we're having even more people stacked on each other. So I think time is a real issue, especially with all the construction costs and how slow going everything is. I mean, we can't even get somebody to come look at any sort of building project within a month or two. You know, there's just delays everywhere right now. So hopefully that.
You had a piece of property out there on B Highway, you was looking at.
On B Highway?
B Highway.
Yeah,
Did you ever go any farther? with
I
that?
did not, no. That's why I said, I'd like a little bit of direction, if not a lot of direction from the board as far as who we want to do Greenfield, who we want to buy it. I think those are the
Yes.
two obvious options.
Mr. Chairman, the only direction I would give the chief in his leadership is to find the location that matches with the call man. And it could be an old barn that they could convert. I think location is probably, and functionality together are probably the two ultimate factors that I think should guide any decision making at this time.
I appreciate you saying that. Couldn't agree more. Yeah, fit form or function.
Yeah.
Form's not that big a deal, but it's got to
Absolutely. We can be creative as much as we want because, and I'll add too, you know, it's a good idea to think forward and how to avoid the inflation on the building costs. But keep in mind that inflation has also been passed into home prices. So what you purchased today, if you found that spot, was not the same value 3 years ago, let alone 2 years ago. So that fluctuates as well.
Not to get too far into the tall grass, that's also one of my thinkings about buying a house, rather is if our needs change, you know, Sedalia, say for instance, puts new roads in, or I don't want to say the B word, so. But if things change, you know, if the status quo changes, we've got a house that we can sell. You know, you can't sell all the ambulance space, so these guys can tell you all about that. I think they hate theirs. But it gives us something that's actually marketable if we ever do need to move with a nice garage attached to it. So I've really seen the downside from the first one. I feel pretty confident about recommending that the board approve that we look in that direction.
I thought we had already given approval to, we did.
no. Never took any kind of action at all. I don't think you really want to strictly limit it to that if something, the right thing came along.
If the right thing comes along, sure. But it would help us out, I think, a lot for our strategic planning efforts is if we could have more of a singular focus, unless something actually comes up that changes that. Right.
And we're looking something out there on the southwest side.
I think that's the best place to go. Yeah, that's where our call volume points gets us to our calls in time. And it's, everybody's seeing traffic's getting worse and worse. It seems like daily around here. So.
And you know, the other thing too, that I looked at on some of the call volume, and it ties into what Mr. Nail said earlier with regard, you know, I'm familiar with the call determinants. There's a lot of B call determinants and some C call, which are judgmental in emergency, whether or not they use a license are. And I bet you there's 20% of them that occur within a half mile where you're thinking about putting your new place, because of the facilities that are there. With the presence of Bothell and the other doctors that are right there within that 10th and Winchester, and then the 2 care facilities. So a lot of calls for our services occur in that general area.
I think inexpensive is the way to go, not cheap, but inexpensive. You know, and using a structure that's already there makes sense instead of building it from the ground up.
I know too as well, I mean, and I'll volunteer this, I mean, I've been in real estate law. And this is just, you know, something to be cautious about, and we find ourselves in this type of hunt, if we find something that will suit the chief's needs. You know, you keep in mind, this is a family living in a home, not sleeping, it's a 24-hour operation. The wear and tear on that home would be much different than a family living there, you've got to realize that. So, there's a big difference between residential quality build and commercial build, as Mr. Davis would understand. So it's a great idea, but there's going to be probably some maintenance and some things we'll have to look at, because it's not just a single family, just if it sleeps 10 hours or is absent from living in it for 10 hours. It's a 24-hour operation all the time, in and out, in and out.
Well, there's gonna be maintenance with anything. We've already had maintenance at the TT station.
I understand, I'm thinking with regard to having a concrete floor, with regard to having a joist floor. I mean, but it's a great, creativity is the third thing I would think it would be, you know, besides functionality and location, creativity, and I think everybody's on board with that, I am well, so.
I think that gives you some direction.
Yes, yeah. I think our meeting's on the 24th. I believe our next meeting here is on the 8th, if my math is correct. So we'll have a little more to report. I can start with you between now and then, have some more, maybe some options here. You know, okay. That's good.
Move on to unfinished business. The Windsor Ambulance District update. It's requested if anybody have had any, but maybe Steve put together a little history. Nobody currently on the board was here when that whole thing started. And Steve kind of put together a little history from.
Well, I brought the reading material for you all to pass around. That's what I really brought. First, we'll start off with, we did have our tax hearing in August, which is required by law. And we reported that to the 4 different county clerks, which they reported to the state auditor's office for entrance into their portal. We did get certification back, and as you know, our voters passed a 0.60 cent property tax 2 years ago, I guess. But Jamie may be able to help me explain this a little bit better. I brought a couple of copies for, that's that down there, this over to Nick, whoever. There was a lawsuit, Blankenship versus Franklin County. Blankenship was a private citizen that lived in that county, and he sued some of the what's the word I want? Like the ambulance district, the hospitals and places like that. And what it came out to be is that this next year on our taxes, we're going to be able to collect 0.520 cents. And what that means is that the assessment evaluations had increased considerably. So in order to keep us from collecting more money, they backed it off. So that'll make us in compliance for this next year with the ruling. So anyway, I brought those copies for y'all to look at. We are pursuing the sales tax, and at our next board meeting, we hope to have a draft of the informational brochure that we're going to be putting out. We're looking at pursuing that in April. We already have some means of getting the information to the people. One is the brochure, the second will be a Facebook. And then, of course, board members will be going around to the different community organizations explaining it to them. Because it is kind of a complicated issue for a lot of us simple-minded people, knowing how all that works. So we are pushing forward with that. A half-cent sales tax is the maximum, as I understand it, that we can collect. So that's what we'll be pursuing. Okay, the story of the Windsor ambulance. Okay. When Windsor Ambulance District was formed in the late 70s. And at that time, they pursued a 28.28 property and personal tax. Even from the beginning, it was somewhat of a struggle to purchase the equipment and to purchase the ambulances and maintain the payroll. And as you folks know, a lot of it relates to collection rates. So, but the ambulance district struggled in the very beginning, but it was starting to, I guess, become more secure. And in late May of 2015, Jason Heaney, who is an attorney in Windsor, sent a letter to the Fort County Commissioners and saying that the Windsor Ambulance District would close as of midnight, June 1st. The board that was that existed at that particular time, all of them had resigned. And so Mr. Heaney developed or wrote the letter that sent it out to the county commissioners. And as you all know, part of the responsibilities of county commissioners is for the health and well-being of the citizens of their county. So that's how we kind of fall under their care, if you will. Okay. Evidently, the commissioners had a meeting, and what they did was that this is 4 counties. What they did was identify individuals in each county that asked to be appointed to serve on the board. I'm sure that let's see, I wrote that down so I wouldn't make a mistake. Jim Stone for Henry County and David Dick, of course, for Pettis County were involved in that. Bill Gable at Johnson County, and then Steve, how do you say his last name? I got the wrong name. Yeah. Okay. Of Benton County. Of course, now Bill Gable has retired, and Denzel Allen is the commissioner in Johnson County. On June 4th, myself, David, Rhonda Scott, help me out, David, Connie Griffin, and Debbie Bowers, we met with the commissioners. And at that time, they challenged us with 2 things. One was to either dissolve the district or get it refurbished, if you will, and in operational condition. We all took the challenge. We met weekly for months on end in trying to wade through all of this. We owed over $300,000 we had 2 ambulances, both inoperational. One ambulance had a lien against it for $10,000 through a bank there in town. And so just the financial thing was overwhelming, where you consider that we would only collect roughly around $120,000, $130,000 from property tax during that time. From that point, we had a town meeting. We invited all the county commissioners, all 4 of them from each county, prosecuting attorneys, the sheriff's office. We had about 50 politicians there, if you will, as well as our representatives. And I don't know if any of you are familiar with Windsor or not, but the ambulance base was in an old milk factory located behind what is now Royal Oaks Hospital. And the building was falling apart. We had our meeting down there so that all these folks could see what we were dealing with, including the sewer issues. But we asked for help from these people. And one of the things that we were pursuing was that we believed that there had been misappropriation of funds as well as embezzlement. And so we pleaded with the sheriff's departments to pursue an investigation. We had a stack of stuff about this tall that was presented to them. Matter of fact, Kevin Bond took all of the electronic equipment, and their people went through all of that. And Henry County went through all the paper files. We asked that since Windsor's located in Henry County, of course, Henry County officials had to be the lead. So we asked the prosecuting attorney in Henry County to invite the highway patrol in for an independent investigation. And depending on who you ask, if you ask a board member or if you ask him, he didn't do it. And so all of that work was for nothing. Let's see, after that, we started notifying or talking to different ambulance districts. We went to AMR. They came to Windsor. We gave them a tour of Windsor and of our facilities. We had a town hall meeting. At the end of the day, they concluded that they would not be able to come to Windsor because our district was not large enough for them to go. And so from there, we went to Golden Valley. Golden Valley told us that, Donnie Bullock and myself, that they were not in the ambulance business and they had absolutely no interest in providing service to Windsor. We went to Johnson County. They said that they'd be willing to take the portion of Johnson County, but nothing else. And if they couldn't have Johnson County, they didn't want any of it. We went to Cold Camp, talked with them. There was a couple of reasons that it didn't work out with Cold Camp. One of them is that we couldn't meet their expectations, I'll say. And anyway, I'll leave it at that. And so from there, we came to Pettis County and we made a plea to the board at that time to help us. And we met with them, I don't know, what, a couple of weeks later? They invited us to come back and talk with them again. And from that point, we moved forward and actually started operation in March of 2016. Through the assistance, or I won't say assistance and direction of some of the Pettis County board members, we were able to find a tax attorney in Kansas City and hire him to negotiate with IRS on our tax, because we had state and federal employee taxes as well as payroll that had not been paid. State and federal taxes hadn't been paid for 6 years, I believe it was, and payroll was 8 to 10 months behind. So we had well over $300,000. And as I'm sure you're aware that the IRS, you know, if you give them $500, the penalty is still like $1,000, $2,000. So you never get ahead, you never get overpaying the penalties, at least for us with the reserves we had. We did have a community sale. The ambulance that had the $10,000 debt against it, non-operational. I think we got $600 for it. Another one that was inoperational and non-movable. I think we got 200, 300.
I think 300.
300 for it. So they went a long way to pay that $10,000 note off. We did talk with the bank, and we were so blessed. They forgave the debt. So that was. I guess, you know, in the ambulance business, we've had to learn hard and fast, I guess, and we made a lot of mistakes going along the way, but we had some wonderful people that guided us. Frank Foster is one of them, the attorney. And I guess, you know, as far as dissolving the district, and we have talked to Frank about that, it would be next to impossible. Since there's 4 counties involved, the ballot would have to be on each county's ballot. So we'd have 4 different issues, if you would, same issue, but 4 different avenues to vote on. If there's one of those 4 counties that does not approve the dissolving of the district, it can't be dissolved. So each county would have to say yes. And Frank told us that it would never happen. If for some reason or other we were not able to have a service, our board has come to an agreement that we would turn the district's, ambulance district's assets back over to the commissioners and allow them to pursue that. I have a little bit, you know, I guess what I want to say now is that it's really hard to place a value on a life. We can place values on body parts. We can place a value on a human body, cadaver. But when it comes to placing a value on a human life, I don't know how to do that. And I don't think that, if you will, allow me to say this, that we have the right to place a value on human life. But I will tell you that if you want to go to the black market The going rate for a heart is about $1 million. Livers are $262,000 each. An inch of skin is $10. A stomach is $500. An eyeball is about $1,500. So I have two stories that I probably have told you before, situations that happen in our community. One of the stories is during the year that we were not in operation, we were relying on other districts to come and answer our 911 calls. During that time period, we lost a 4-year-old boy that shouldn't have died. The responsive time was over an hour. After we were fortunate in getting the Pettis County Ambulance Service to provide services in our district, we had a gentleman at our ag co-op there in town, got his leg caught in an auger. The ambulance service was on the spot in a heartbeat. The man's leg had to be amputated on site. If we had not had Pettis County there, he would have died. And today he has an artificial leg, but he's alive and living and with his family. So we truly believe that, I know there's been discussion that a lot of people maybe in Pettis County are concerned about why you're providing a service at Windsor. I think that story in itself is a good reason. Plus, I don't think that it has, by coming to Windsor, I don't believe that it has caused any kind of a loss of service to the Pettis County people. If anything, that end of Pettis County has helped them. And I think we're thankful that you're compassionate and realize that everybody has accidents and some of them are very life-threatening. We do have kind of a unique population in Windsor from the standpoint of the Amish, and that may have been some of a challenge for some of the paramedics and EMTs because they do home births. Well, you all know. So, don't know that I've answered your questions, but we've been very compassionate about providing a good quality service, emergency medical service to our community, and you all have answered that call. So thank you.
Are there any questions for the gentleman while they're here? Yeah.
So you're debt free?
We are debt free.
Okay.
Eric mentioned that our facility, the prior facility was not livable. The mold in it, deterioration, was horrible. I don't know that I would have put my pallet in there. But anyway, with the help of Pettis County, we bought an older home. It's a double wide trailer on a full basement, located uptown, if you will, on a side street behind Valero's. And we built the garage there that Eric explained. And I think that the staff are happy and comfortable in our facility. And, we know that we're going to have to replace that house. And so with the 15% that we retain, that's our objective, is to replace that house to provide a better life for the folks that are there.
Are there any other questions?
I'd like to ask the scenario, okay, this is the line between Pettis and Windsor. You guys are in Windsor, I'm over here in Pettis. Coffee pot's the ambulance station. If we unplugged it and plugged it in here, we're still close enough where you can get emergency management real quick, within a couple minutes. Because Pettis County is part of, just in that little corner of Windsor.
Certainly.
So if you weren't able to have the facility, couldn't the station be moved into Pettis right there outside of Windsor and still service you? Because you wouldn't have any ambulance. And by law, they would want to take care of those things. You have to. But then I looked at the map of Windsor Ambulance District, and you guys are up in the little corner of it, and the district goes way around. It's really an odd shape. Goes
It
all the way
follows the
down,
Windsor
all the way down to
School District.
Clinton, and then up into Johnson County. So what do all those people think? Are they happy with?
With Pettis County?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So our guys are running.
Our
And it's mostly
district, yeah.
agricultural, right?
Yes.
They're
we're
spread
mostly
out.
agriculture.
So there aren't any, I guess Clinton, Warrensburg, and you're about equal distance from Sedalia, Warrensburg, and Clinton.
That's
aren't
true.
you? So whoever designed the ambulance districts, they need to go back to school.
I wasn't there that day. Yeah, they basically.
They set it
followed
up for
the-
failure.
They basically followed the school district's boundary lines. And yeah, I agree with you, every year when we start dealing with tax revenues and answering the 4 different counties for data
Yeah.
and things, I think, we've got to train somebody else to do some of that stuff, David.
It's kind of like when
Yeah.
God made all the animals, he had all these pieces left, and he made platypus.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Just threw it all together, made ambulance,
Yeah.
Windsor Ambulance District.
Of course, Windsor is one of those towns, that it doesn't sit square with the world. It's built on trails, on old trails. And so it's not true west or east or north, it's just, is what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
Our taxpayers have no problem with Pettis County. What they did have a problem with the previous ambulance district that we had, which is Windsor, with the ambulance being over at somebody's house on a Sunday afternoon and they're having a party. That's where the ambulance was. That's the problem. If you have a #1 ambulance district, our constituents will never complain. They brag on it all the time. And we've seen the horror stories. Now we see the best there is. And we're happy with the best there is. And all of our constituents are happy with the best there is. They don't want to go back the way it used to be. Theft. And I wouldn't put it in the ambulance that Steve and I overtook, the 2 ambulances, I wouldn't put a dog in there. The stuff had never been changed. The sheets never been changed. The living conditions, horrible, horrible. You'd open the refrigerator, mold was inside. It was horrible. Now, we've seen that side, and now we see this side. We like this side, and our constituents like it too.
I think, the property tax was 0.2875. And our taxpayers eagerly doubled it. We passed our tax levy with about 70% approval. And that's, I think, speaks volumes.
And
Yes.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
And if the sales tax goes through, I think there's something about property tax and sales tax, you gotta reimburse some property tax if you get so much sales tax or something. What is the goal of the money that you bring in? Is it to make a station, build a station for the ambulances, or?
Comes to you all.
The 85%.
85%.
Okay, now,
Come
would
with
we-
district here.
would we then maybe set up a line item where the money coming in from them would be what we use to go back into that, I assume? Or does it?
Is that what I heard you say, the 15% retention would be for y'all to redo your station?
Yeah, like on the sales tax, if you collect a dollar, as I understand, if you collect a dollar on sales tax, you give back 50 cents to property owners. And, I say give back, you reduce their property tax by 50 cents, just use the easy numbers, but, it's hard to estimate how much that will bring in. We first started talking to Frank Foster about it, we thought that it would bring in an additional somewhere around $40,000 of revenue to us. So I mean, you never know, how many people are going to travel through town. We don't know what the sales tax contribution is from the Amish community, and I'll tell you, it's volumes. The sawmills, the trust company, the grocery stores. So, I suspect their sales tax is probably going to equal the cities. I'm just guessing, I don't know that for a fact. We're optimistic about it. Yeah. So of the sales tax, yeah, y'all would get 85% of that.
And
It's just like the railroad tax we got, y'all got all of that, which was 8,000, I think most of it.
I don't know, it's not designated that way.
Oh, okay.
Is there a savings account that you have money in, that you're putting money in since you're out of debt now? And how much is in there? Roughly? Any idea?
I didn't break.
It's not $1 million.
Oh, no.
I mean,
Yeah, no.
and it's there for,
Building and maintenance on our, what we have now.
so we don't maintain the building,
There are like,
but we own the ambulances and the employees.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we own the buildings, the property, we pay for the upkeep of the buildings and property. And we all pay $1 rent a year. But yeah, there's absolutely no housing. We pay utilities.
So the money you're getting will be going into maintaining that building,
Yes.
and if you get to the point where you can, well, you send the money here and that would help pay for the ambulances and the employees in there too.
Right.
We have 2 on staff down there.
Yes, sir.
Did they rotate?
Yeah, they can rotate it out that station.
You
We
know,
don't let them stay down there too long, because everybody in Windsor fans.
you pay $1 a year on rent. We pay you 85% of our property tax money. And you get to bill the patient. The money from billing.
So basically yours is just maintenance on
Yeah.
the building.
Y'all do the building, y'all get the money for the bill.
If you ever got to the point where you had enough money to purchase an ambulance, would you want to stop that relationship? So,
Not this board.
so we're basically
We're looking
a
at,
marriage.
yeah, partnership.
Well, two become one, so.
There you go. Now I expect a birthday card this year, so.
I might owe you $1.
Yes.
Yeah, you can bring the candy to the next meeting.
And when are your meetings?
We're the third Tuesday of each month. We meet at 6 o'clock at the ambulance station. But yeah, if you haven't seen our facility, I would really encourage you to come down and look at it, and Harry can show you around and you know, if I remember correctly, we gave $60,000 for the house, and it had a detached garage in the lot. And then, of course, we put the building.
It's a nice building.
We did do some remodeling with the house, you know, with the bathrooms and stuff after we took it over. And this, people had a little gym downstairs, or did have.
Yeah.
We try not to bother the staff there unless we're bringing them food.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of comments. These gentlemen brought up AMR, and for those of you guys, I think some of you may be familiar, AMR is ambulance company, the corporation that operates all across the United States. In most circumstances, they're in a contractual situation with an entity, a hospital, a municipality, a county. And, you know, they fill in the blanks where hospitals and counties and cities can't afford to do this like we're doing here. And we were blessed and told by the taxpayers that's what they want us to do. I want to admire you gentlemen for sticking to your guns and what you've done to pull the district out of a very ugly situation, and to now be in a position to maximize the dollars and to be able to enter into the partnership. And you know, I support this partnership. I always have, and I've been vocal about that. And any attempt, you know, to defund the EMS services and that partnership is just not something that I would be a partner to participate in. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I did bring some newspapers, but you get to read all of the community's news when you go through looking for the articles about the Windsor Ambulance District. But there's also a couple of Sedalia papers in here. Nicole Cook from the Sedalia Democrat followed the story quite closely. I felt like we almost became best friends as much as she called, and that's fine. Sue at the, I forgot what the Warrensburg paper's called. Yes, thank you. She followed the story adamantly, and of course the Windsor Review did, but I didn't want to overwhelm you with all the reading, but I'll see. I am going to bother you with this few things. Big Windsor Review. Here's a picture of me signing the first contract with Pettis County. So this was here for your reading. And then, and on the third page again, is first day of operations with the Pettis County ambulance folks. I recognize John in there and Dalton, some of those guys that are still around.
The date of that paper.
The date of this paper is March 11th, 2016. So, but anyway, I'll leave these with you all. I will tell you, there's some really good jokes in the editor's page. So I enjoyed those. So I'll leave these with you, Eric.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
And I think did I give you, Eric, 2 letters?
I think.
Or to Jamie? One is to Representative Hartsler that we wrote, which we did not get a response. I wrote almost a 2-page letter, but I did. And then the other letter is a letter that we composed and wrote to the IRS, but it has some information in there I thought maybe you folks might be interested in. And you had those right, Jim? Okay.
Any other questions?
We tried to be transparent.
Yeah, I think that Eric has attended each and every meeting of the Windsor district, so any board member that would wish to go, you can obviously ride down with Eric.
Eric's been a godsend for us.
He's been saying it for us
Yeah.
too. He and Jamie.
Well, thank you guys for coming.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Free to go or free to stay. We'll move on. Ordering of the new ambulance.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Can I give you just?
Verify.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Come down and see us.
All right, I think I heard.
Ordering of the new ambulance.
Yes. Third and final loose piece of paper you got in front of it, it's got a picture of a Taney County ambulance right there on the front. Nonetheless, Taney County's a pretty truck, that is a trauma hawk with Dodge in front of it. But nonetheless, everything is going up. And that's kind of a recurring theme here in the next 2 items we've got. The Trauma Hawk, which is the series we've been buying, is looking to increase the price, not only the price, but the build times because of the availability nationwide availability of chassis. So it's going to take about a year to get here. In other words, we're not going to pay for this for about a year, but it needs to be ordered as soon as possible. Right now, they're estimating is 360 days. Well, to me, that's a year. So generally, they under promise and over deliver. So maybe we'll get a little bit of shorter time for that. They're very good about getting them as quickly as they can, and they're about 6 months. All the other ambulance manufacturers are taking around 18 months. So if we were to order this now, the one ambulance for next year, we'd have it about a year from now. I'd like to ask the board to go ahead and allow us to order that in the morning again. We'll pay for it. We'll pay for it until next year's budget, but it's not getting any closer. I haven't heard anything wonderful about the availability of chassis.
And this would be to replace which unit?
That'd be to replace that unit 1 with 215,000 miles.
And keep in mind, the next two yellow lines are those transport units that we are running out of Windsor.
Yes, those are transit units.
Transit units, I mean,
Yeah, the unit 1 is the last remaining Osage unit. As you can see on that vehicle mileage, that separate one. It is a 13 Osage. So at this point in time, yeah, it's our oldest unit next to the used Tahoe we bought for a command vehicle. So it's been here since the beginning.
Yeah.
It's been a good truck, but
Do you expect that price to stay where it's at, or is it gonna be low until you get it?
I'd say it'll probably fluctuate a little bit. I'm pretty sure it's not gonna go down. There seems to be a common theme amongst all the equipment we're looking at, supplies and everything, and tax revenue. 13% seems to be the magic number. Our tax revenue's gone up by 13%, so it costs all over the place. So this one represents I'm not sure what the percentage cost if you put that on there, Jamie.
No, 17,000.
17,000 more, so maybe 7 or 8%. My math isn't that fast, but
And we can't lock that number in.
we can lock it in.
Yes, yeah,
If we order.
that's what we're thinking about doing, is if we get an agreement to go ahead and give these folks the authority to get the order in, we don't have to pay for it until we take the delivery late next year, but for this, I think this might be a signal from them to say, hey. And then the only reason I mentioned the other two ambulances, 8 and 9, those transit units, I would assume that probably within 6 months, we're gonna be talking about ordering 2 more ambulances to replace those. So, you know, this is an ongoing thing, but it's gonna stop at that point, because at that point, Eric will have everything with the same box on it, same rear end, the box, the where they work. That will be changed out, would be what they classify as a remount. That will just buy the chassis, and that we won't be having to expend this as often as we are now to get the new chassis and boxes together. So I hope I didn't ring on your parade.
No, that's perfect explanation of it. It's about a 6-year cycle if we only remount once. Now, there's
Right.
a possibility we could remount twice, but generally speaking, we remount once. So from that point forward, once we replace those 2 transits down there, I say down there, we keep them in Windsor. They're not great trucks. Once we get past that mark, though, to keep that 6-year rotation, we need to buy a new ambulance or remount every. And that would keep us on track for now until the ambulances. So they figure out how to make them last longer.
And I believe this is a fantastic plan that Eric has, is to get all the equipment alike so that he can help, you know, rein in the cost and maintenance. You get everything alike. Better safety issue, everything, you get everything alike, so.
Yes.
I remember in past meetings, we talked about, we had a plan to replace. So is the plan to replace 1 next budget year?
This is the one, yes.
It should be 2,
It should be 2.
and we're 1 behind.
So yeah, we're 1 behind. That's why the recommendation came from, I think, Jamie, and yeah, Eric, there is
Okay.
1 more. As well as I'll mention that document I also believe has replacement of command vehicle, which we could actually delay. There's been discussion about that. So anticipation was to have that document for you here tonight. But the ungodly truth is, there wasn't any paper to put in the copy machine to get it.
Well,
The
these will be
big-
updated.
the big sheet, yeah, and that's something we're gonna work on at the strategic planning meeting. We're gonna review that and make sure that when we bring it to you, it's kind of a flowing document. I know that, you know, there, many of those items got advanced purchase due to the blessing of the money we got from COVID. And some of our ventilators were able to be purchased in advance by a couple of years, so there's some give and take that we've done with the prudent purchasing of Jimmy. So.
Not to go too far down that road, but yeah, that's what I want to get across today is it's gonna take a long time to get this ambulance down. I'd really like to get the orders. That's super to the board at this price.
Standardization goes a long way for your staff.
It's good enough for the Coast Guard. Yes, sir.
I'm in the middle, middle of the night, if you're half asleep, you have to get a call, it's like, oh,
Yeah,
Which reader am I?
yeah, which, yeah, radio, that's.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we get 215,000 miles off this one, that's about $1 a mile. Then it's 215.
I haven't done those numbers, but that's a good life. That's a long life, you know, but we've nursed it down the road. I think, unit 1 had, I'd have to go back to my notes, but it's definitely had some repairs along the way. So, those those E450s are good chassis. You know, they're very reliable. They're the most reliable ones I've ever worked with in EMS, to be honest. But we used to go diesel. We got away from diesel. These things don't seem to disappoint. until they start, like I said, they creep up over 150,000 miles, it's time to look at put some new wheels on them.
Historically, around 160,000 is kind of the magic number that kind of need to be New York.
We need a motion.
We did.
I'll make the motion to give him chief authority to order that thing.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the purchase of the or ordering of the ambulance, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to add, make sure that motion we include with notes the amount of the 235,472. That is correct. Is that correct? Okay, let me just make sure that that is in there to that motion. Please, is the audit. Thank you.
Record replacement equipment. All.
Continuing theme. There is on the board packet, I believe this got stuck in the public packet too, but there's a much simplified version of this. That's the loose page, this one got here, and I can give you a copy of this if you don't have to snap a picture or whatever, that's fine, well, that's part of the record. Andy was kind enough to put this in a much easier to understand form. I'll spare you the agony of looking through the quote back there because it's several pages long. But a lot of those items that you see are individual, they're not individual pieces of equipment. A lot of them are sub pieces of those items. So when you get to, for instance, a laryngoscope that starts on page 53 in the board packet, the next probably 6 or 7 items are all related to that period of laryngoscope. So most of these pieces of equipment, if you don't know what a laryngoscope is, it's what we use nowadays, but probably the most invasive piece of equipment we use when it comes to airway for sure, short of a cryofied or not. So needless to say, it's a very, very important piece of equipment. Those video scopes, they were kind of new when we started services in new EMS, I should say, when we started in 2013 and we bought some King airway versions. We've since started buying the McGraths from Stryker. They seem to be a much better unit. They're more reliable. Cameras tiltable. We have a much better animation success rate with them. But the initial Kings, just like that ambulance, have reached their service life. Actually, they reached it about 3 years ago. Some of those more advanced pieces of equipment that get heavy use, yank it and pull on, you might get a few extra years out of them, which we have, but they are part of the strategic plan. They're not just part of the strategic plan, they're part of the equipment that's just going to wear out. We've got to replace these things. Long story short, we'll past that, but I'll say it anyways. We're looking at a 13% increase in cost this year, roughly from Stryker. I think, 14% is what Jamie came up with on all equipment. Stryker was nice enough to not increase anything during COVID. Many companies actually did the same thing, but Stryker very much did it. However, starting October 1st of this year, Stryker will be offsetting their increased costs, production costs, delivery costs, the same thing everybody's paying. Those prices are going up after October 1st. The deal that we've been made is to replace all of this equipment. As you can see, this is the power cot. That would be for our 12th unit. That's probably the one extraneous new item that would put us on a fully stocked 12th unit. The rest of them, that's the maintenance below that, is the power cot. The stair chairs there were 5 initial stair chairs bought that were actually Furnos. These would put them all in that Stryker category that makes it, there was a very good maintenance program with them. We call, they come down, they show up usually same day, if not the very next morning, and take care of our maintenance. So that would get us all in keeping with that conformity and uniformity theme there. That would replace our aged out stair chairs, 5 of those with new Strykers. The LifePack 15 battery charger is something we need for the 12th truck as well. As you can see, going from left to right there, Jamie put our sale price of each of those what it would currently cost us, what it would cost us afterwards, and then, of course, in the final column, the percent increase, the total savings of $8,401. If we order these now, we can set the date they're delivered, and we don't pay for them until they're delivered. So if I tell them we want them in March or April of next year, we order them today, we get them at the sale price, and we take delivery of them and pay for them next year. Otherwise, we're paying an extra $8,400 for equipment that's definitely.
And that sale price is what?
That is the.
46.
I believe that's 58,970. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Correct.
Yeah, it's 58,970. If we wait, it's 67,372. And again, this is not maybe it's limited. It's definitely stuff that requests.
Yeah.
Chief, I have one question. We engaged with Stryker, the extended warranty on our cot system.
And monitors.
Pardon?
And our monitors.
Right.
And our-
So does this new cot, well, that falls underneath that, will it?
Yes, that's wonderful.
Okay. And the other question I had, why just 5 of the scopes? When we're,
That's to replace once we got past 5 units for the service, which was pretty early on in the game, we started ordering the brats. So 5 of them are the old style King, what are called King Airways. They're not King Airways, King Vision scopes. And again, they've just aged out.
thank you, that's all.
Sure.
And is the rest of the house a Stryker house? I mean, pretty much as far as your equipment.
Well, Stryker bought out Physio Control, which the Physio Control is a big heart monitor company. So, yeah, Stryker cots, Stryker power lifts, Stryker stair chairs. Not necessarily reason for that, other than, like I said, the warranty that they give is very good. They're very reliable about getting here. And that's just what we've always used. They are compatible. Buffalo uses the same exact monitor we do in the ER, as well as their crash carts throughout the hospital. They're just, in our region, I think they're the best choice as far as compatibility. Ambulance services, we have adapters in the trucks that will take any cot we can put in there, and should we have a mass casualty incident.
Things getting mixed up.
Yeah, so they won't just take, it's not that specific cot it has to have. We have adapters that'll run just about anything.
As is our cot, if we had our patient on our cot and we had to go to a different ambulance, most ambulances are set up like our ambulances with this, so.
Yeah.
It's, we go shove them right in a different ambulance, go right on in, secure, safe.
I'd make a motion to go ahead and order these now, and accept delivery after the first.
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion?
Does that obligate us to buy it?
Yes.
Is it someone else?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you're ordering it. You're
Yeah.
saying you're-
Well, I mean, again, this isn't, an extra that we're putting it, this is the scope that they innovate people with. I mean, it's done important to do.
The stair chairs, I probably should have mentioned that. I didn't explain this. If you haven't seen them, because we use all these power cots and we haven't had back injuries, because of it, the stair chair is just what it sounds like. It's a chair that folds up. It's got wheels on the bottom of it. We can take it up and down very narrow passageways and multi-story houses down in the basements. That way we don't have to take that big unwieldy cot down some of these stairs and risks squishing into.
Where you can't get the cot, and then it has
Yeah,
like also like deal on the back that you can.
Yeah, it'll lay down and kind of
It's
walk
got
its way
different
down there.
configurations.
They're really, really nice devices to have, and they're back savers, and like I said, instead of a 150-pound cot, you're messing around with a 50-pound stair chair. So they're a very vital piece of equipment. We use them. I would hazard a guess probably on at least 50% of our calls.
You always get the best deals at the end of the quarter.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
and it's,
Is there any further discussion? If not, we have a motion, the second to go ahead and place the order. for the striker equipment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could, again, with this motion, that we also make sure that we have the accurate number in the minutes as well as.
$58,970.45.
You want a copy of that? Okay.
I would take a motion to go into closed session pursuant to RSMo 610.021, sections 1, 2, and 13. All in favor, and that will be roll call.
Brown,
Yes.
Cox, Fritz,
Yes?
Gerke,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Hamel.